work through how the bills will be handled and the process going forward. At this time, we're not at a stage where I can say exactly what those agreements are, but those are things that we are looking at right now. So the intention is to stop billing the customers in the worst affected area, but we will have to do that on a community by community basis. And as it relates to the estimates, persons would have been billed up to the 28th of November. Once we get into September, some people are still going to see those bills, but provisions are in place to upscale staffing so that we are able to look at those accounts individually where persons have those
So
issues.
how soon are they to visit your office with their complaint? And is it that preparations are put in place to take on an enormous amount of clients that will come to your office? Because I can tell you, especially in my constituencies, or St. James on a whole, we have been having water problem, and Mr. Delano knows very well of what I am speaking of because I would have been in communication on more than one occasion. And so they're asking, or I am asking for them, are you prepared to take that amount of traffic? And how soon can they now start to come in? Because you're saying it is on an individual basis or a community basis. So I want to know here, I want you to say it, that they will hear that yes, you are concerned about the situation or you're aware of the situation, and so you're asking them to reach out to your office for them to be, for that situation to be addressed. And again, I have had complaint about customer service. I am imploring of you in a situation as this, with such a devastating disaster, persons from emotional standpoint, from a physical standpoint are already stressed. And so I hope your PR, your communication department will be in a position to say to members, we have to go, or we have to bend back as far as possible so that we don't ignite a situation that can be diffused with just maybe a one answer.
Okay, so for the East, all of our offices are open. You mentioned particularly St. James.
Sorry, I am speaking of the hardest hitting areas.
Yes,
all the parishes in the Western Belt.
I understand. So our offices in the Western Belt were all damaged except for our Mandeville office. So our Bevan Avenue office, the roof, sections of the roof went. They will not be opened until Monday, and even so with limited capacity.
So before you go further, Doc, my suggestion, could it be that you may want to rent a space separate and apart from the Bevan Avenue office to deal with the complaint for persons, maybe a couple of your staff members, to deal with the situation that takes it away from the regular run of the mill situation, but really to address the concerns of the many customers that are reaching out? Because I also hear you mention of water being restored, but water being restored in St. James is really to the essentials and to the lower section who may sit in between the Great River plant and the essential, which is like the hospital or the airport or the police station. So those residents within that circle will get water. But, sorry, remember again, St. James is predominantly hill. 77% of St. James is hill. And so we depend heavily on the Appleton Hall system that provides water for at least half of that section of Montego Bay. The Catherine Mount wells, just the same. And these supplies depend heavily on electricity. And so for the community of Flower Hill, Salt Spring, Rose Heights, Cornwall Court, those areas are without water. And it is hard to explain to them. I mean, persons will understand, some won't. But I want to get from you, how soon will these lift station, pumping station, will be energized through generators? Because I know that they are working on the lines. No, but it's going to take some time. In the meantime, will you be placing generators at the Appleton Hall and the Catherine Mount pumping station so that we can see water going into the hills?
Okay, so as it relates to the offices and the people coming into the office, I want to, if I'm allowed to complete that, to say that 5 of the 6 offices are damaged. But we're working to put on temporary roofing so that people will be in the space. In terms of persons coming in just to complain that they're not getting water, they will have that communication shortly in terms of what the NWC's response is to the persons who are not being served. They do not have to come to the offices for those complaints at all, because there's a plan to treat with those accounts separately. As it relates to generators, I cannot give you a date, but I can tell you that we are actively working. As I said, we will have to rent generators at this point because there is nothing available in hand that we have to move. So Catherine Mount and Appleton Hall, those are on the priority list.
If I may just add to that, Mr. Chair, so 2 of the areas you pointed to in terms of the elevated areas of St. James, Flower Hill, Salt Spring, those are definitely priority locations which are fed from the terminal system overlooking the airport and the Appleton Hall, which is to the west, to the north rather, of the Cornwall Regional Hospital. What we intend to do where possible, is once we've come off generating power for instance, our Great River system or Catherine Mount system, it gives us the flexibility to move one of those generators to the areas, to one of the systems that can allow us to elevate into, you've not only mentioned those, but also 41, Farm Heights, Rose Heights, right, onwards to Cornwall Courts, etc. So that's the target area. As we segue now to the communication, Doc would have made a point regarding just receiving customer contacts. We will put a link online, also shareable on our WhatsApp channel, that allows customers to submit those queries about their bills. So essentially, they're just putting in their customer code, premises code, which is the account number, their contact information, and click submit, which allows us to pull down that information and then respond accordingly. So it will save the travel time, save some of the queuing time at the offices, and therefore get customers properly registered in terms of the complaints that they may have. I may also just go back to MP's query about the notification. So we do still have to maintain some of the word of mouth transfer because communication is not up to the normal speed. We've placed the way station locations on our social media pages, but as we speak, we're mobilizing some signage for a few critical spots as well. Highly trafficked areas, so Bogue Stretch at Reading Spring near DNG, also Martha Bray at the bridge where we're seeing some persons converging to pull water supply. We are going to be putting some physically prominent signs there to direct them to the locations where they can go. We continue, though, to partner with the other emergency center agencies, the ODPEM, the JDF, the JCF, to also disseminate the information in the locations where we're either trucking or we've set up wayside stations.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman. So we are understanding that you all have over 1,000 island-wide facilities that require electricity. A percentage is out. We've listened. We also understand that of the customer demand, Jamaica's physical infrastructural requirement on a customer basis for water, we're at 75%. And we really thank you for your time on this presentation because it has helped some of us understand. For example, a constituency such as South St. James, hard hit, deep rural, the percentage would not be 75 to 25%. It may be 50-50 or it may be a complete reverse. Where we may have to, Mr. Chairman, sit with to understand this issue even better because we have gotten a feel for what you're doing, for your challenges, but we're not really coming to terms with, or I am not as a committee member, understanding how to get past this, what the numbers mean when you have 25% or 20,000 out by your records. And you may tell me it's bill paying or customers with open accounts. I believe the challenge, Jamaica's challenge, physical infrastructure, water challenge, is far greater than we are coming to terms with this morning. I mean, I really understand it's been very helpful, but I believe, Mr. Chairman, we're not accomplishing what this committee needs to accomplish on this issue. Because we learned things like UG, underground water, underground facilities. We're learning, but we're not coming to terms with what's in front of us as committee members. So we may have to ask the Ministry of Water or those in that area to give us a presentation. Because when I understand what rural water would mean, and parish council water systems and unbilled customers, I believe we have a far greater challenge, especially now with the passing of a Category 5 through the parishes of the West.
You see, the problem is that we as legislators, we are also resident in a community. And we grappled at this point, especially me, grappled with the situation that, yes, I am here as a legislator, listening to you, trying to understand the numbers, the figures that you're putting to us. But when I'm in my community, I have no water. And I live in farm heights, on top of the hill. Everybody around me has no water. And I'm trying to get an understanding of how do you come up with that number to say that we are here. And so I wouldn't say we're failing. We just need to understand, or you need to break it down to us. Just take us as a layman. Just take us as a regular customer out there. You understand? Because even the next point, Madam Doctor, the filling station. I know in Montego Bay, St. James, we have a filling station by Redden. But when the truck goes to that filling station, it's just one spout. And I'm saying, in a situation like this, NWC need to have done some adjustment so that at least 3 or 4 trucks could be being filled at the same time, cutting down the time that they wait. Because we now have to also take into consideration the traffic situation that is at a standstill throughout the entire day in St. James. So for the truck to go to Redden and wait an hour and a half to be filled, and then have to take another hour and a half to go through that traffic to get to Mount Salem Farm Heights, to deposit that 1 truckload of water. It takes another hour and a half to get back to the filling station. So you end up spending 6 hours to carry 1 load of water. Understand? And this is the reality on the ground. So sending 5 trucks to St. James sounds good on paper. But 5 trucks in St. James trying to get water to residents is not even a drop in the bucket. You don't see it any at all. And so the question is, the million-dollar question is, we know that service electricity has been restored to Great River, but water coming to Appleton Hall to be lifted to the higher elevation, how soon? It is of dire need for electricity to be restored or to be provided at these two pumping stations, Catherine Mount and Appleton Hall, so that the greater, the Roseites, the Farmites, the Rosemount Gardens, the Mount Salem, the Salt Spring, the Glendevon, the Norwood, all these communities that are on the hill to get liquor water, because again, no amount of truck water is going to suffice. And so the easiest way is really to put back water in the lines. And we're pleading with you. I'm begging. I have to go back to them. And I tell you, every minute you say I go on the phone, is somebody sending me sometimes the same message or something a little bit different, but it boils down to, when are we going to see water in our pipes?
Chairman, Dr. Clark, Dr. Francis. My apology. Excellent presentation. I understand the members about the percentage. I was just saying to Member Robinson that it looked like we're using a drone to get these numbers. Anyway, two questions that I want to ask you. I was in the West on Saturday, and especially those where they have the some of the shelters, and you do have running water and all of that. I see where the disease is going to break out. What is the plan of the National Water Commission to especially put water at the shelters, whether a tank or to fill it there or whatsoever? The schools also that, children are there for the 6C and they don't have water and all of that, the plans. The question that really big question I want to ask you though, is that the Ministry of Water provide allocation to members of Parliament to truck water. And a number of the private trucks just don't want to operate. Well, they say they can't accept the rate of the Water Commission because it's so low, and the different areas they have to travel from a far distance away to truck water, even to help me to get some water at the schools, what they're doing, the high schools and the primary schools that are doing 4 to 6. What is the plan to do some adjustment to the rates and the filling station? Because take, for example, Mr. Williams will understand what I'm saying here. The trucks have to travel from up into Spalding to go to Porous. Now we're having a challenge that at Content, where you have the flooding there now. So everybody have to go up to Williams, Winston Jones Highway. So you see the cost now. And as the chairman was saying, the distant away. So for the entire day, that truck may be only able to draw 1 truckload of water. But you have 24 schools. How you're able to deal with that part of it, I don't know. So that is one of the things that I'm very concerned about. The matter that Member Smith raised about the PR thing, I can't complain about it. I used to complain to my friend, and at least I am getting too much email now because they put the entire island sending them to me. I just want only to know what is happening in Clarendon and Manchester. So we have to do a little adjustment. But it would be good, Chairman, if the National Water Commission would share that was information with all the MPs and all the councillors, that they can able to share it with their constituency, because that is what I am able to do now. When you send me the information, what you're having at the different plants, I can able to send it to different group, WhatsApp group, that this is the problem that they're having there, this is when you expect to get water and so forth. So I think it's something that is in this time that we have to be able to share those information to make sure that that other persons can able to get those information. But Dr. Francis, the shelters, please, I see exactly what is going to happen, and we have to try to find a way to work out something between the Ministry of Health and so forth, because it is going to create a serious, serious problem.
Yes, member, we have been looking at adjusting the rates. So yes, the rates will be adjusted for the persons in the critical areas, for the trucking rates, both for what we sell and what our private truckers will deliver on our behalf, because we understand that challenge. The new rates are not yet published, but for this period, the rates will be reconsidered. As it relates to the shelters,
because we are in this critical period right now, how early those announcements will be made that at least the $2 million that was allocated to Northwest Clarendon, the 3 trucks that they asked us to identify, the 3 trucks turned it down because of the rate.
The new rates will be settled by this weekend.
Follow up. Sorry, I don't know if I missed this part. Minister Robinson was distracting me. Member, the new rates will be published this week, and you're confident, Dr. Campbell Francis, that these new rates will be satisfactory to market to the truckers?
I will not be able to say that. I cannot
All right.
say. Yes.
Okay. Would you be able to say the level of increase? 5%,
No, not
2%?
yet.
Not yet. So
But we will announce the increase by the weekend.
Okay. Member Azan has asked me to ask you about payment, because he's saying that the contractors are saying that sometimes, we know the processes. It just wondering if they'd be more efficient with the payment of these contractors.
Part of that situation, member, is something that we'll be looking at in the nearest future where procurement is concerned, because I take it that it has a lot to do with procurement and payments. So we'll be looking at that further from now.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So water and the physical infrastructure of it as we see it, I made the point, we realize that in deep rural areas of Westmoreland, Hanover, St. James, St. Elizabeth at this time, your customers or who you serve is far less than 25%. Do you have any numbers, any thought process you could share with us as we try to grapple with what we have not come to terms with a full understanding this morning, what we have failed on? You have put us in the right direction. You have placed clearly in front of our eyes what we need to look at as committee members, and we will be going there. But do you have any thought process? Because I'm sure you have done your studies of areas such as Cedar Valley, Trinityville, which are very similar in many ways to St. James, South St. James, the hills of Hanover, St. Elizabeth, because it's very important for us to understand our strength and weaknesses as a country.
Those numbers, member, would be contained in the section that says customers not yet restored. So the actual numbers of customers are there for each parish. Yes. Total number of people in the population. Okay. We will attempt to provide that in the presentation that will come.
The
Because
question
we do
that,
not
sorry,
have-
Madam, the question that you just asked, member, is not on record because it did not go through. So ask it. Hold on.
The question we're putting forward, you're familiar with it. The requirement, customer requirement, community by community, parish council division by parish council division. I go there because a lot of these systems that we are now going to be looking at when we go deep rural are parish council systems and rural water. So we are going to have to go somewhere else to get the numbers in terms of to understand what the requirement is, what the shortfall is, how many citizens we have now in these different areas and in these different parishes that are not being properly served with treated water. That is what we're trying to get at and to see what we can do in the near future. And I thank you for your time on this.
Yes, member. In terms of the service of water overall, as you're aware, under the National Water Sector Policy that is currently in effect since the last revised version was 2019, 85% of the population is supposed to be served by the National Water Commission and the other 15% via the parish councils, private providers. And as you're aware, Rural Water Supply Limited works with both the NWC and the NWC and the private providers as well as parish councils to develop systems as we go along to provide water in rural and urban areas. But in terms of the policy, we are classifying areas to be served as not rural and urban, but we are looking at the areas as non-utility service areas and utility service areas. So NWC would be responsible for providing water to the utility service areas, and these are areas where it is the least cost method to provide piped water. While for the other 15%, which falls under the non-utility service areas, those are areas where it is really difficult to have piped water from the NWC. So that is where you would have a lot of cases with the parish councils having these small supply systems, and they would have barbecues and those sort of things where they would provide and catchment tanks, so they would provide water to the various communities. So it's a combined effort in the water sector between the private, the government, through the NWC and the Rural Water Supply and the parish councils to provide water as best as possible. So the vision is to provide it as best as possible up to at least 2030 to have at least a majority of, or at least 100% access, but given circumstances and things that happen, it may not meet the target, but as best as possible to meet those targets. And in fact, right now, this hurricane has kind of impacted some of the progress that is being made. But the efforts are there to ensure that we get back to where we were and get back on track to provide universal access, at least by 2030, to various programs being managed by the ministry and the agencies. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, when you speak about the National Water Policy 2019, that's what you had indicated, that's where we'll have to go and read. So, Mr. Chairman, through your chair, can we get this, and so we can have a good look at it, this policy paper. At this time, what percentage of St. James would be with treated water? What percentage of Westmoreland? What percentage? Would you have an idea of what we're faced, what we're looking at this time? Because you explained quite well earlier that even though you have back online some of your major water supply systems, because they are not running on the JPS system, they're running some of them on generators. their output is maybe at 59%. I recall that figure, I noted it. Do you have a thought process on that? What we face, what the challenges are there in terms of what percentage of different communities or parishes that are receiving treated water?
Delano, could you share the numbers of customers we had without water and do those calculations?
So overall, we have 30% of our database, our customer base, sits in these 6 parishes on the western side. That's just on the approximately 170,000 customers. Of that number, I would say less, well, our own assessment says less than 50%, somewhere between 45 and 48%, currently have access to the systems that are coming back online. In terms of physical residents, we average each customer point as a household of 4, so you're looking at just under 700,000 persons in this space. At 50% restoration, about 85 to 90,000 customers have access to water as at this morning based on the larger systems that we have now brought back online. We do note the concerns that there are still elevated areas that have not yet started to receive pumping, but along the plains where water is flowing directly from the pumps or via gravity, that's our estimation at this point.
Sir Chairman, may I just add a little to Mr. Delano's answer, as well, to indicate part of the challenge we have at the National Water Commission, especially in a restoration situation like this, is many of the systems will take some significant time to be fully charged. So a Great River water supply system that came back into operation, all of the customers on that system would not immediately begin to see the restoration. So a customer who is connected to that particular system may hear that the system is back, and it's gonna take, in some instances, a day, 2, or even more for the system to become fully charged so that they will see it in their pipes. The problem is also compounded that, especially now, when the areas have been without water for an extended time, so everybody's tank is empty and everybody is filling. We also know that there are a number of breaks, either at the individual customer home or that are on the network. So we want to encourage persons to continue to bear with us as we work feverishly to restore their supply. But when the system comes back, it does take a while for all the customers to begin to benefit from that. But the good thing is that with the system now in place and operating, it is going to bring more and more persons with service, reduce the areas in need of trucking, and also reduce the areas from which persons need to come and collect water. So each day we hope to be making further progress and to be making more customers come on board. I also may need to add some things to an earlier question with regards to our communication, because we recognize that even in those instances where we are issuing communication, it may not at this time be reaching all the customers. So we're posting on all the social media. We have the NWC's WhatsApp line that is up. We have a mobile app that is providing information. We have our contact center, which is taking toll-free calls on a daily basis. But we do acknowledge that, especially in this circumstance where communication is not free-flowing, there may be persons who are still out there despite our communicating. I commit that we will always work at communicating more and better, but part of the challenge is also that the message is being sent, but there's no one in a position to hear the message. I hope I've added something to that.
Yes, Chairman. So Buchanan, the suggestion I made to send the information to the political representative, you will take that on, that you will share that information daily, because you go into an area and persons say that they can't get water, what is the problem? The member of parliament or the councillor could easily well access to say that this is the information that we have.
Yes, we will be committed to working with all the critical stakeholders to help spread the word in as many channels as we possibly can. And our community relations teams will activate even more than before.
To Dr. Francis, she didn't answer about the shelters thing, but I want to ask before. I see you have 51% in Manchester Restore and 71.5 in Clarendon. But Moravia, 2 meeting, Peace River. Moravia, all right, Manchester 51 and Clarendon 71.5. I know that Moravia is served by Manchester. 2 meeting, Manchester 2, or Clarendon. Both of them. And the Peace River. There's any time period, especially for the Moravia and the 2 meeting who serve the hospital at Spalding. What is the plan for that?
Let me start with the shelters question first. So we have been having discussions, or we are in dialogue with the Ministry of Health. So as it relates to the shelters, the only shelter that we were asked to come in to provide some assistance was Petersfield in Westmoreland. So we have been trucking, and we have also assisted with doing some assessments to provide some additional storage for them, because their issue was a storage issue. So until then, the trucks will have to go to them daily, which is happening. As it relates to Moravia, it is on our critical listing. So what I asked is that our teams had a generators listing, critical generators that we needed, that did not include some facilities that were in the hardest hit area. So we have, since Melissa, updated our facilities listings, and the critical facilities for us are those in St. Elizabeth, in the parishes in the west. So we have shifted our critical listings to include the parishes worst hit, because we are working hard to improve the numbers for those parishes. If you may allow me to answer a question that was asked before, and that is the matter of the facilities not yet assessed. You're right, your God content. And I confirmed Retrieve. These are for Hanover, Westmoreland now. Retrieve, Jerusalem Mountain, Greenwich, and Dance Road. But they have committed to completing those within the next 2 days. So by the weekend, content, we don't know what the flooding situation will look like, but the other 4 will be done this weekend. Yes, yes. Content, St. Elizabeth. That's the one that's flooded. Oh.
I seen a boat that the truck, the filling station is in Porous, and they have to travel all the way up to Winston Jones now to head back to Christiania and Spalding because content is flooded.
So they would have done the assessments. But we are referring to those that we have not been able to look at all, which would be these 5. The content, St. Elizabeth, then Dance Road, Greenwich, Jerusalem Mountain, and Retrieve. But we will have those 4 completed on or before the weekend.
Members, we are now 29 minutes to 2 p.m. I'm going to be taking the last question.
Doctor, repeatedly saying the weekend.
Sound like a song.
For the record, I want dates. I want details. I want dates. So the weekend, let's get dates.
Weekend starts Friday.
Right. So the weekend, today's Wednesday the 12th. So the weekend, what is
Remember
it?
you asked for the date. Allow
Right,
the
I'm sorry, Chairman.
right.
Dates, please.
Can we now have
for the
a
record.
date for the record, Doc?
Okay, so the Friday is the 14th. So by the 16th. Yes.
All right. Once again, let me say thank you to the team from NWC. You have been very insightful, even though we're still at a point not comfortable. We appreciate the information that you have brought to us this morning. I take it that John Public, especially in the western part of Jamaica, will find it favorable to appreciate what you have said, but at the same time, the concern is very high. And so we will continue to be in dialogue with you, whether we will ask you just to send us a report or we will call you to come back to us to present on the situation, hence from here until that time. It is a never-ending work. We continue to do the work. You on your side, us on our side, but we must at all times work together hand in hand to make the lives of Jamaica citizenry comfortable as best as possible. Once again, we say thank you, and we look forward to the workings. At this time, Dr. Campbell, Ms. Talia, and your team, gentlemen, you are excused. You don't have the mic, member? The meeting is not over. Whilst the members from the NWC team is making their excuse, are there any other business? None. A date to be set next week, the 19th, tentatively, but if there is no other meeting on Tuesday the 18th, then we'll have the meeting brought forward to that time. At that time, we hope that the other agencies, NWA, NROC, NSWMA, National Solid Waste Team, those entities will be here. We are also looking forward to have the different parish MCs in the West to be here to give us an update, because they too are doing some amount of work. They have some amount of responsibility, just the same. All right? But remember now, member Azan, not all entities will be here all at once. So we will send to you those that are confirmed for next week, Tuesday/Wednesday.
Could the minutes be sent like the day before that you can able to look
as soon as it is prepared, which will likely be at least a day before.
Okay.
If it is sooner, you'll get it.
Okay.
I just want to emphasize again, at some point, Mr. Chairman, we would like to meet with the procuring department of the Ministry of Finance, because we want to understand if they have any thought process that will help us in this immediate emergency that is time sensitive.
Noted.